Hello, listeners. It is a delight to welcome you to today's episode. The program is Agricultural Productivity and Inclusive Economic Growth. It is Amorgate Radio Communications, and I remain your host, Titilola Ogunshono. We will be discussing an interesting and crucial topic today titled Food Security and Inclusive Growth. We will be exploring what food security entails from its definitions, various definitions to pillars, measurement, global statistics on this subject matter. We will be evaluating the complex relationships between food security, economic growth, and poverty reduction. And of course, we'll be looking at the role of agriculture as a driver of economic growth, job creation, and improvement of food access and availability. Economic growth could only be sustainable when all countries have food security. It thus becomes imperative for countries to have country-owned and country-driven food security strategy. In other words, what a food security strategy that will work for country A might not work for country B. What will work for Nigeria might not work for Kenya. What has worked for the United States might not necessarily work for Canada. So every country would have to, devise, will have to formulate their own country, the specific country owned and driven food security strategy, within their own realities. Why is this important? You recall that the theme of the program series for the quarter is agricultural productivity and inclusive economic growth. So you're talking about growth that is sustainable, growth that is felt by every member, of a country, of a nation, every member of a particular society. And one of the requirements of achieving sustainable growth is high level of human capital development. I recall when we took one of our program series when we spoke about economic development, we mentioned that one of the measures of economic development is the HDI, that's Human Development Index. Okay, and if one of the requirements for achieving sustainable growth is high level of capital development, thus a country with high level of poverty, and chronic level of malnutrition would definitely have limited human capital development or low level of HCD, human capital development. So it's important when people do not feed well, when people are not healthy, definitely going to speak to the level of productivity in such an environment. So food security holds significant benefit for not only human health, but also a foundation for achieving sustained and inclusive growth in any economy. Why do we need to talk about food security? Why is it important? No, we have unforeseen circumstances that could come up, just like the COVID-19 pandemic. It highlighted the fragility of food systems and the need for building resilience. We all saw it happen, when the pandemic led to disruptions of food supply chains. We had food price spikes, we had increased poverty levels, and even hunger in some economies, especially particularly the vulnerable households, really felt the effect of this pandemic. It thus becomes imperative, important to prioritize food security and build more resilient food systems that can withstand shocks. So today's episode is basically by laying the foundation on what is food security, what we mean when we talk about food security, what are the pillars of food security. Let's look at statistics around the globe on food security matters, on hunger issues, on poverty issues, and of course we also look at measurement. How do you measure food security levels? And we'll talk about food insecurity, because the absence of food security is food insecurity. Like I said, this episode is about laying the foundation. We'll see how fast we could go, but definitely as we go ahead, we would have experts come to talk to us more about this issue extensively. The issue of food insecurity is a global concern and it's quite contemporary. Just about 2 days ago, on the 3rd of December, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, unveiled its first ever global emergency and resilience appeal, seeking about $2.5 billion to support more than 100 million people across 54 countries and territories grappling with acute food insecurity. This is how vital the issue of food insecurity is, and the need to take innovative, drastic approach to, reduce, if not totally eliminate, the issue of food insecurity across the globe. According to the FAO Director General, global food insecurity has reached alarming rates. There are great concerns that despite increase in humanitarian spending, food insecurity levels have tripled since the year 2016. And this appeal by the Food and Agriculture Organization lays emphasis on some salient facts. About 80% of people facing acute hunger live in rural areas, yet only about 5% of humanitarian food sector funding goes towards agricultural, livelihood. There's a huge imbalance, and this huge imbalance could heighten the occurrence of food crisis in some areas that they cited, such as Sudan, Afghanistan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Food and Agriculture Organization have opined that early agricultural interventions can yield benefit cost ratios up to 7 to 1, and it is expected that over time, this will reduce the need for prolonged humanitarian aid. The fund is expected to build resilience intervention throughout next year, that's year 2026. And the FAO has prioritized 7 regions, the first of which is the Asia and the Pacific. They prioritized that about 521.6 million would be allotted for about 30.5 million people. The second region that's been prioritized is Near East and North Africa. That is about $519.1 million for about 29.2 million people. The third region that has been prioritized is Eastern Africa. That about $471.6 million would be provided for about 18.4 million people. All others prioritized areas include the West and Central Africa, about 593.4 million. Provision is going to make for about 17.7 million people. We have the fifth region, the Southern Africa, about 179.6 million for about 5.3 million people. We also have the Latin America and Caribbean, it's not left out, about $111.9 million for about 1.3 million people. And definitely we also have the 7 prioritized region, Ukraine, and that is about provision of about 64.7 million. Okay, 64.7 million for about 358,713 people. And it's also expected again that the way the fund will be distributed, is that we are going to have $1.5 billion for emergency assistance to about 60 million people. And the emergency assistance will include, provision of seeds, tools, animal health campaigns, and cash transfer. Another $1 billion for resilient program expected to benefit about 43 million people, and that'll be focused on climate smart, agri-food systems. That'll be focused on water infrastructure, and of course, one other important aspect is market access. That'll be focused on this. So you see that the issue of food insecurity is huge. It's a global concern. In fact, according to FAO, about 30.6 million Nigerians, stand the risk of acute food insecurity, by Q3 of this year, 2025. That's about that projection. So it cut across, regions that this fund, the appeal fund, this fund would would accommodate. Okay, that's how important the issue of food security is. So we need to look at it. Today we'll be looking at what are even the drivers of food insecurity, what are those factors that brings about the food insecurity and the possible effect of it in an economy. Yeah, we're going to look at the causes, because to solve the issue of food, the security, to solve the issue of high level of food insecurity, you must understand the root causes that enables it to thrive. Okay, and according to the State of Food Security and Nutrition in the world published in July 2024, they looked at quite a number of factors influencing food security level in the nation. But I would like to look at it on our three groups. Look at the economic factors, driving food insecurity levels in the nation, in the country, in the continent. We'll look at those environmental factors and look at all those other general factors, that could influence, that could drive the level of food insecurity in the nation. Remember, we need to know what the root causes are, the peculiarity of it to your region, to your country, to your continent, to your community, so that we now know how to provide adequate solutions to them. Okay, so we'll start with the economic drivers, of food insecurity levels. So I've considered various studies, to see which one of these economic drivers we will say is the most paramount, is most critical, is most important, or carries, higher level of, effect, But not in that, but one thing that stood out in most of the studies that I've seen, some of researches, is that the number one economic driver of food insecurity level is poverty. Some would look at some other factors, but one of the critical drivers influencing high level of food insecurity is poverty. A lot of studies have shown that this is one of the leading causes of food insecurity in a nation. Now, because if you look at it, poverty is associated with low level of income. When income levels are low, in a particular family, so happens feeding becomes not just problematic, but I always say it becomes traumatic. So let alone ensuring balanced diet meals, which speaks to the quality of the food. So you're not even talking about even accessibility, being able to afford what you even need, what the body needs. It becomes so traumatic, and the reality of this is those who are most affected are households with low or irregular income, and it makes it they have to take decisions as regarding some opportunity cost, because when income level is low, that's the poverty rate is high. So you realize that you have to now prioritize, because of the little income coming at irregular intervals, not fixed intervals. You now have to prioritize. You ask yourself, do you prioritize food, or do you want to deploy the minimal resources to take care of other necessities for survival, which could include healthcare, housing, and research has also shown that we have a positive relationship between income and food security. That if income levels are low, then level of food security will be low, and when income levels are high, the level of food security will be high. And you can also say that these also on the way when you talk about food insecurity levels, when the level of income is low, the level of food insecurity will be high. That's inverse relationship. And the danger here is that undernourishment can lead to an intergenerational cycle of poverty. I'll take it again. The danger here with this cycle of poverty is that undernourishment can lead to an intergenerational cycle of poverty. That's why every government, especially in developing nations, want to tackle the issue of low level of income, want to tackle the issue of poverty. You don't want to take chances, because it's going to have, multiplier effect on the economy, and that takes us to the issue of food insecurity. So one of the economic drivers of food insecurity is poverty. Let's look at the second economic factor that could be a driver for high level of food insecurity in a nation. That is inadequate support for small-scale farmers and women farmers. Okay, studies have revealed that majority of small-scale farmers are women. So when, unfortunately, most of them do not have access to the required training, to adequate finance, land, and other forms of relevant support system. So when those who are small-scale farmers that are to be enabled to produce more, increase the level of productivity, the level of efficiencies and productivity levels can be high. Once they are not supported, unfortunately, this would also add to the level of food insecurity in a nation, a particular economy. And of course, not just finance, require training, the land, and all relevant support systems that they do need. So a lack of support, deliberate support from government, might be inexistent, but not effective or efficient, not adequate. This would affect it. And this is evident by the 2025 State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World Report. It revealed some statistics that calls for global focus to allow policymakers to look at the policies, a review of existing policies more intently, where amendment needs to make, when new policy needs to be enacted. They should be done. So according to the report, 32% of people living in rural areas who produce most of the world's food were moderately or severely, food insecure in the year 2025. That is a whole 32%. Also, in addition, about 24% of people living in urban areas were also moderately or severely food insecure in 2024. These are data, these are statistics that are there, for us to review. So at the second economic driver of food insecurity is inadequate support for small-scale farmers and women farmers. I'm smiling here because someone could say that why did she start with economic drivers and then on natural, causes of food insecurity, and then a natural phenomenon, things beyond your one's control that could actually be attributable to the high level of food insecurity in a nation. Yes, I want to couch that, I want to put that on the environmental factors. Okay, so let's look at the environmental factors, that could drive high level of food insecurity in a nation. But before we do that, we'll take a short commercial break and we'll be right back.
Harmogate, founded in 2008 out of a desire to build transgenerational structures for organizations, institutions, and nations. We have worked with large businesses, international development organizations, and public sector ministries and agencies. Harmogate, our uniqueness is that we do not just work for you, we work with you. For example, we do not leave you to the task after sourcing talent that will help the new hire settle into robust leadership development programs. We are technical experts in advising and supporting institutions on strategy and leadership, artificial intelligence, strategic human resource management, public sector reform, finance, audit and tax, FAT, and strategic communications. We do all this and more out of a desire to transform nations through institutions and organizations. For further inquiries, email contact@theharmogate.org or call +234 810 999 6666 +234 807 957 4151 and +161 0504 6026. www.theharmogate.org. Harmogate, building to endure and transforming nations through institutions and organizations.
Okay, thank you so much for staying tuned. Okay, we're back from the commercial break. If you are just joining us, that is the maiden edition of our new program series, Agricultural Productivity and Inclusive Economic Growth. And I smiled when I started the program. I said it's inclusive economic growth. Please take note of it in this quarter. That's what the emphasis is, and we are talking about agricultural productivity. You're looking at the efficiency, okay, in the production of the agricultural sector, in the agricultural production systems in the country. You are looking at the ratio of yields relative to agricultural input. This is what we have been considering. We have considered the various definitions of it. We have, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining. We have not gone too far. It's going to be an interesting, informative, insightful, engaging session, okay, this quarter. We will have a lot of interviews this quarter looking at various aspects of agricultural productivity. We're looking at various factors, from the policies to the financial tools. A lot of factors we'll be considering in this quarter. And what we have considered again, prior to this time, we looked at the facts according to Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States, looking at agricultural production statistics from 2010 to 2023. And it's interesting that what we were considering before the break, for the short commercial break, we're looking at the top 10 agricultural countries in the world according to the Niche Agriculture and Business Day report compiled and published in May 2025. And we said at number 10 we had Turkey, at number 9 we had Germany, at number 8 we had Japan, at number 7 we had Mexico, and at number 6 we had France. Okay, so which country is at number 5? Okay, the fifth top 5, okay, in terms of the agricultural countries in the world and the production is Russia. Yes, that's Russia occupying the 5th position. With countries occupying the 4th position is India. Yes, it's India. Yes, okay. And it's so interesting that the contribution of agricultural sector to the GDP in India is very significant. It contributes about 17% according to reports. Okay, 70% of the GDP, and also that agricultural sector employs about more than half, about 50% of the workforce according to this report. That is massive. Okay, if you ask me, okay, going by the figures here at number 3, and it's interesting, this number 3, this top position is quite interesting because they've had challenges. They've been faced with soil erosion, with water scarcity. Yet, for this country to still, be ranked 3rd, agricultural countries at number 3, and it's no other than Brazil at number 3. That is very significant. It's also going to be worthy to consider what has Brazil done differently. Okay, at number 2, of course, we have the United States, and we try to look at what have they done differently. United States, of course, we have government subsidizing infrastructure, also research and development. From the report and what we've seen, it played a key role in helping the United States, get the spot at number 2. Then at number 1, which country is at number 1? Even from very other reports that I have seen, we say have this country featuring, at number 1 from other reports that I have considered, I've gone through. So which country is at number 1? No other than China. Okay, yeah, of course, production, cotton, rice, wheat, corn, potatoes, tobacco, livestock production has helped to secure China's position at number 1 in this report considered. And like I said, likewise in some other report that I looked at, we had China occupying number 1. Okay, and also I tried to look at what is Africa also doing. Okay, and there was a study by Joanna Maiga 2024, and what this study was all about was to look at the impact of agricultural productivity on economic growth in Africa. And the study considered about 5 African countries. We had Tanzania, Ghana, Kenya, Morocco, and South Africa. And for this study, we saw that the country which shows highest agricultural productivity in this study carried out in 2024. For this using the 5 African countries as case study, was Morocco. Okay. Was South Africa, followed by Morocco, Kenya, Ghana, and Tanzania. And one important finding from the study that's worthy to be noted is that both South Africa, despite having highest level of agricultural productivity, and Morocco, following closely in terms of agricultural productivity, they had relatively lower contribution to economic growth. Okay, and one factor responsible that was discovered was low employment rate. So it's also possible that you could have high level of agricultural productivity, maybe peculiar to developing economies of some continents, and the contribution to economic growth could still be quite low. Okay, that's it about agricultural productivity on this maiden edition of our interesting, insightful, informative new program series. Okay, we said we are going to be answering some questions. What's agricultural productivity? We are going to be answering at the countries around the globe that have a high level of agricultural production. We look at the top 10. Now I also promise that we'll start, if we can go too fast, time will permit us to look at what exactly is inclusive economic growth. What do we mean by inclusive economic growth? While economic growth speaks to a sustained increase in the productive capabilities of an economy, usually measured by the GDP, the gross domestic product, economic growth, according to World Bank, refers to both the pace and the distribution of economic growth. It's not just the rate of growth, is not just the increase in productive capabilities. However, it speaks to the distribution of economic growth. And according to UNDP, when we talk about inclusive growth, we are talking about the process and the outcome where all groups of people have participated in growth and have benefited equitably from it. It refers to the equal, or what we say, the impartial allocation of resources with benefit incurred to every section of the society in terms of availability of consumer goods, in terms of employment opportunities, and of course also referring to the standard of living. Okay, this is all we can take. I would love to go further. We'll continue our discussion, on inclusive economic growth and other things that we have for you in this interesting, beautiful, engaging program series, agricultural productivity and inclusive economic growth. Thank you so much for staying to the end of this program. My other colleagues have also started the maiden edition of their new program series for the last quarter of 2025. For those that have missed those episodes, please go to our YouTube page. We have them, the videos uploaded for your consumption. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you join us same time next week. Remember, my colleagues, Monday to Thursday is 5 p.m. WAT. My program, by God's grace, I'll be right back next Friday, same time, 5 p.m. WAT. Remember that Amogate, we have a cover for your consulting needs, for your training needs, communication needs. We have you covered. You want to learn more about us? The website is www.theamogate.org, and of course you can check us out on our social media handles: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is Amogate. Okay, and we haven't changed the mail address. If you have any feedback, questions, anything you want us to treat, on our programs, of course, it has not changed. You still contact at theamogate.org. I wouldn't leave without dropping a quote, and the one I'm dropping today is from M.S. Swaminathan. Okay, it says if agriculture goes wrong, nothing else will have a chance to go right. That's how important agriculture is to an economy and in the global economy at large. Thank you so much. I find my way to your devices next Friday. Remain blessed and have a beautiful weekend ahead. I remain Titiola Ogunshono saying bye from here.